Hi everyone, we're here at Node+JS Interactive in Vancouver. This is Graham from C3UG, and I'm here with Nick O'Leary. Why don't you introduce yourself, Nick?
Hi everyone, I'm Nick O'Leary. I'm a developer advocate at IBM, and I'm the project lead of NodeRED.
Yeah, so there's been a decent amount of conversation with respect to NodeRED in the ICS community, and I thought I'd grab this opportunity to have a quick chat with Nick. So maybe first question for you is sort of the origin of where the idea to do NodeRED came from.
Sure. So NodeRED came about, I won't say by accident, but it was basically in my role back then in our emerging technologies group. I was in between client projects and wanting to play with some new technologies, and this is back early 2013. So I wanted to learn more about Node.js runtime. I wanted to play around doing visualizations in the browser. So I just spent some time working out how to do stuff with Node, and there'd been a project I'd tried doing a few times over the previous few years about visualizing mapping of MQTT messaging topics in the browser, being able to drag something on and draw a wire to represent mapping from one topic to another. And this was just the next attempt at trying to see where the state of JavaScript in the browser had got to do that sort of visualization. And I quickly got something working which you could drag on a node that was an MQTT topic, wire it to another one. And I showed it to a colleague, Dave Conway-Jones, also in the Emerging Technologies group. And I said, just imagine if there was a button you could click and then it was actually doing what you'd drawn. And he just sort of looked at me and said, well, go on then. So he sort of sent me packing back to my office, and within an hour or two I had a little Node app that would respond to that, clicking a deploy button that would then start mapping messages on MQTT topics. And it just snowballed from there.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, of course, I saw your presentation earlier today. Your original focus is really in the IoT world. And I also noticed that, or you had mentioned that in 5 short years, you're now to 1 million downloads and deployments of NodeRED. So with respect to the focus on IoT, maybe just a quick conversation about practical uses of NodeRED in an IoT world.
So it started out in IoT because, as I said, that is the sorts of projects we were doing for clients. Very short-term, quick projects. Strap a Raspberry Pi with some sensors, gather the data, get in, do that project, move out. So NodeRED really fitted the bill for having a development platform that matched that sort of rapid development cycle. And so because the sorts of projects we were doing were IoT, gathering data, doing some processing on it and passing it on, that was very much the driving set of use cases for NodeRED. So a lot of the companies who have commercialized NodeRED do use it in IoT-like scenarios, whether it's on industrial controllers, so the whole sort of Industry 4.0 type scenarios, making it easier to interact with PLCs and existing industrial hardware, building automation systems, that type of thing. So very much in the IoT realm of sensor data, real tangible things, and interacting with them.
Right, and yet it's exploded well beyond that.
Absolutely,
now too.
Yeah.
Other examples of where people aren't necessarily using it in IoT?
Yeah, well, because we built it as a very extensible platform, you can write nodes of any sort to anything. We've seen it used for a whole ton of stuff. So, a nice story I heard quite recently was there was a company developing a mobile application. I'm not sure what industry it was, but a mobile app and a back-end application to go with it as 2 separate teams, and the mobile developers were getting ahead of the back-end developers. So one of the mobile developers, because they were blocked, spun up a NodeRED, quickly modeled the back-end API they were waiting for. You purely sort of stubbed out test data, but nothing fancy. But he could very quickly build that and give them something to start developing the front end against, whilst the production back-end team caught up. Nice example there. And then we've seen it used in tooling around massively multiplayer online game chat systems,
Oh,
So
interesting.
there's a company who provide cognitive services around game chat to try and automatically spot certain types of behaviors in games.
Oh, fabulous.
So they've used NodeRED as tooling for their linguist analysts who aren't programmers,
Wow.
but they know the sorts of things they want to spot and know how to sort of model the logical flow of a dialogue using NodeRED. So that's really interesting.
Something I've played with recently. I know there are nodes with respect to Watson Workspace and certainly all of the Watson APIs. So practical applications, of course, on in local data centers, but also if you want to be able to interact in the IBM cloud. Is there any difference if you were running locally versus in the cloud in terms of the kinds of nodes that you would use?
There's, as with any sort of application you build, you've got to be aware of the environment you're going to be running it in. So if you're running it in a cloud environment, you've got to have to think about how you manage state, particularly like the IBM cloud, because it's Cloud Foundry based. State management is important if you want to be able to horizontally scale, run multiple instances of the NodeRED flow, NodeRED application. One of the great things when you run it in the IBM cloud is there are nodes for a whole bunch of the IBM services, the cognitive services, so you can very easily create chatbots using Watson conversation and dialogue services, and really easily integrate them with other chat services. So there are nodes for Facebook Messenger, there are nodes for all sorts of the sort of commercial front end, Slack, whatever it might be. So it makes it really easy to then plug, create bots that then can integrate with all your existing, whatever communication platforms you already have within your organization.
Absolutely. In fact, I know of an IBM customer in Germany that's doing just that. I was thinking of, you were having a conversation with another person at the conference earlier where you were talking about the amount of time that you could invest in writing code versus the amount of time that you could save by using nodes and very quickly be able to do some prototyping.
Yeah, so we often get asked by sort of experienced developers, why do I want to, I can write this code, why do I want a tool that hides the code? It's like, well, it depends where you value your time. So I can write the code to open up a serial port and exchange data or authenticate with the Twitter API and do that. But that's going to take me time to write effectively what's just boilerplate code. Sure, there are node modules that take away some of the work, but there's still work involved. So something like NodeRED, which abstracts yet another step up from libraries and SDKs, means you can get to the value of your application much quicker. And do you value your time spent just writing boilerplate code or time spent actually building something of value much quicker, get to the business logic much quicker?
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, two other quick things. One of the demos that you showed in your session today I thought was absolutely fabulous was the ability to deploy to thousands of IoT devices very quickly. Can you touch on that really quick?
Sure. So one of the key things we added earlier this year into NodeRED was our projects feature that brings version control into the editor. Now, for those who've played with NodeRED, it's not enabled by default. It's something you have to turn on. But once you've got that, you've got version control within NodeRED, Git integration. So you can, from within the editor, push from the NodeRED editor to GitHub, to GitLab, to whatever infrastructure you may have. And then you can build whatever deployment pipeline you want on the back of that. So in the demo I had,
that was really fun.
Yeah, so I was using Resin, which is a great online service for managing devices. I can git push to Resin, they build a Docker image and deploy it out to my devices really quickly. Straight from the NodeRED editor.
In the notes for this video, I'll actually include a link to your presentation from today. So last question, resources for learning NodeRED. What's the best way to go out or some examples?
So there's some great stuff out there. There's a set of sort of introductory tutorials like NodeREDguide.com, I believe.
I think I've used that one.
Yep, so that's good material. There are a couple Coursera courses that developed by my team, slightly tied to the Watson IoT platform, but using NodeRED. So one is about IoT in general. One is actually very specifically about NodeRED. Teaches you the basics, but goes all the way through to how to actually create your own nodes for the platform. And there's just a growing number of videos on YouTube and material. I mean, it's really exploded, the amount of material out there.
Fantastic. Really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thanks,
Good to talk to you.
Take care. Great, so thank you to Nick, and I just wanted to record a quick follow-up video with some of the example sites that he had mentioned during the conversation that we had. So for those of you that have never used NodeRED, here's the site where you can go to and get started with it. It is NodeRED.org, NodeRED all one word, and it's got some interesting stuff in here, some videos, just an explanation of kind of the basics and how it works. Some different stuff with respect to IoT, the fact that you can run it on a Raspberry Pi. And kind of neat, this section at the bottom here, who's using NodeRED. Agility, which is a friend of the ICS community, John Jardine. That's kind of cool to see them Node on the home page. And Sense Technic is another one. This actually happens to be a Vancouver-based company. Nick was telling me about them because he mentioned them in his presentation. And in fact, if you go to YouTube, you'll find a whole bunch of how-to videos in using NodeRED that the Sense Technic gang have put together. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, NodeRED.org, first place to go. Second place to go, NodeREDguide.com. The NodeRED programming guide. I've been using this one, just running through the lectures, and it's fairly well put together. A good explanation of how you want to use the tool to just learn how to program NodeRED. Nick also mentioned the Coursera courses, which I have signed up for. This one, a developer's guide to NodeRED. So if you go to Coursera.org. And search, there are 2 different courses, as he mentioned. The one caveat that I'll mention here is that these were done a couple of years ago, and they actually use the IBM Cloud interface or IBM Cloud site to do some of the development. And the videos, the IBM Cloud UI has changed, so the videos don't match the current IBM Cloud UI. So you gotta do a little bit of work to figure it out. And if you're completely a beginner, it's a little bit frustrating. But anyway, worth checking out. You can pay for them. You can also do them for free. One includes doing a Raspberry Pi, which I actually bought and have been playing around with. It's quite fun. Next up, this one is on my to-do list. It's an IBM developer site page, how to create a Watson chatbot on NodeRED. Looks like it's kind of fun, and the information was updated here 2017, 2018, so this is rather current. So that one's worth checking out. Another one worth checking out, and this one I just found literally a few minutes ago from doing a Google search, NodeRED Basics to Bots on cognitiveclass.ai. Again, just a quick Google search will bring that up. That looks interesting. Udemy, of course, is another option, and I found a course on Udemy, Learn NodeRED Programming in 48 Hours. Seems like it's got a half-decent rating. So that one last updated March of 2018. That's worth potentially trying out. And this one I thought was kind of fun, projects.raspberrypi.org, another one that I literally just found through a Google search, getting started with NodeRED. So if you buy a current Raspberry Pi, the one that I bought for the Coursera course, comes with NodeRED loaded on it already. Easy to set up, easy to get going, and it's actually really cool and really fun to play with. So there you go. There are some quick examples of some sites that you can go to and learn more about NodeRED. Happy learning.